Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second round edition of the Playoff Football Sportswriters Preview Review podcast. Really long title. I'm Aaron Ferguson, your host, in charge of the large schools, so the Middle Illini and Big 12 schools here in Peoria. And Stan Morris over here on my left on the video feed is a small school guy who's covering the Farmingtons of the world. Mm-hmm. Stan, what'd you dress up as for Halloween, or did you?
I did not dress up. No, working too much, right?
Yeah. I didn't either.
No, we barely had any kids. I think we only had one knock on the door, so all night. So we didn't get much.
That's incredible. It's crazy because I don't know. I didn't do anything. I just stayed at home, watched the World Series, went and got groceries. Pretty low key. I need it though, with 3 volleyball matches this week
going on
and
right now.
Football. Yeah, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. And then the fog today, just kind of settling in, and that was kind of weird.
Right.
I was coming across the bridge because I live on the east side of the river, and it was fine. You could see before you got to the bridge, but then once you got to the bridge, everything was completely white. Except for you could see right in front of you, but you couldn't see the river. You couldn't see anything else. It was like you were driving through a white tunnel. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was pretty thick, that's for sure. I was driving through it too, yeah.
I don't know if it's still like that, but
No, I don't think so, not as much.
Yeah, burn off a little bit.
Whiteout, I don't like to remember whiteout. That reminds me of the Stark County trip to in the playoffs, going to that field for a semifinal game, and a game that ended up not being played because I think we might have talked about that last week. I don't know. Whiteout conditions, never fun to drive, right? So, yeah.
I mean, it's that time of year, though. You never know what to expect from the weather. And it'll certainly impact football games.
Sounds like we get a little rain this weekend, potentially.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. The forecast keeps changing. I checked this morning, and I checked the hour by hour, and it's rain. We'll stop at 10 a.m. and then we'll start later that evening. And I was like, I might stay dry.
Right.
I might stay dry.
50% chance. Who knows? Maybe. Yes.
I hope it holds off.
We hope so.
More enjoyable.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you got on the small school side this week?
Well, we've got 5 small school teams still alive. 4 of those are playing each other, so we've got 3 games in all going on. Yeah, so we got Farmington. Farmington's playing a Wilmington team that beat Elmwood Brimfield in the first round, and a Wilmington team that's very similar to Elmwood. I mean, they play the exact same style as far as offense goes. So that's good for Farmington to know that they've got a team fairly familiar that they can go up against there. And Farmington, just looked really, really good against Winnebago. Just didn't have any trouble. 48-6. They won that game. To think one play would kind of determine that game, you wouldn't think so in a lopsided game, but they got a 95-yard interception return by Cade Lansford that kind of really set the tone for that thing, and it just helped them kind of roll through. Going in, they're 10-0 now for a second year in a row. So, but Wilmington's a strong team. I mean, they've only lost one time, and that was by 1 point to Mantino, I believe. They've got a couple backs that they kind of feature. Let's see, we got. Trying to look to see where I got here. Yeah, here we go. Matteo Lombardi, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. Connor Dempsey, 1,200 yards, 20 touchdowns. So they've got a couple 1,000-yard rushers. They don't throw the ball very much. Their quarterback threw the ball. Well, completed 3 passes against Elmwood, but 2 of those went for touchdowns. So they got to be aware of the pass. But seeing Farmington go through this past weekend, and that's in 3A. In 2A, we've got Knoxville playing PasoGridley this weekend, and so that's an interesting matchup. Knoxville has been on a roll here lately. They've won 8 in a row. Got that big, strong rushing attack that they have. They got 5 guys that they can give the ball to anytime. They just rolled over Chicago Marshall 60 to 20 was the score of that game, and El Paso Gridley kind of pulled off a seed upset. They were a 14 seed going to Rock Ridge, which has a lot of tradition and that kind of thing going for them. Really a powerhouse team. Rock Ridge, I guess, was a little banged up, got beat up in their week 9, so they lost, a couple of key starters, and so they were down a few starters. And El Paso just kind of actually led the entire game. So they led throughout the game and kind of rode their lead running back all the way through. That's Ryan Falk. That's been a good one for them. That's kind of led them through it. We got Knoxville and El Paso Gridley. That's in 2A, and in 1A we've got the rematch, an LTC rematch, Lincoln Trail rematch with Princeville and Wethersfield. Princeville kind of pulled off, I guess, a seed upset anyway, going to Dakota, going to the number 7 seed Dakota and beating them in double overtime. Kind of a thrilling game for them to win it, and so now they get to host this time. Last time it was at Anawan and Wethersfield, and that was a 14-6 game, so that game could have gone either way. Now we'll see what happens in the rematch. Anawan and Wethersfield just handled Orangeville pretty well. I think it's 31-14. They've got their freshman quarterback who threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for another one. They lost their starting quarterback. They lost the starting running back, real talented kids, but they just keep plugging away, and just plugging new people in and just getting contributions from a lot of different people. So that'll be kind of fun to see that one. That's a game that I think I'm going to see that rematch. I didn't get a chance to see that because we had a lot of games going on that weekend when they played. So it was like, now I get a chance to see these two guys go up against each other. Princeville's got good running game with Adam Snedden kind of leading that, and they've got a defense that's really only allowed 10 points a game all season. So that'll be fun. Those are the small school games we've got on tap this weekend. You got about the same number on your side, right?
Well, I've got 4 teams and 3 games.
Yeah,
so
3 games.
All in 5A.
Yeah.
Which is weird,
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. I don't have to keep track of 6 or 4, 7 or 8,
Yeah.
I can just focus on one bracket. And but we only have 2 teams going up against each other, Richwoods and Morton on Saturday over at Carper Field, a little Big 12 Mid-Illini battle, or as Coach Roland Brown put it, he said, I'd consider it Midstate 6, from when the Peoria schools and whatnot were around. I think that's going to be a really good game. The defenses for both teams, which I wrote about in my column in today's paper. Today's paper. Both were big last week. Morton's defense, it was a 20-7 game at halftime. Centralia was beating them, and then they only held them to 13 points in the second half and gave the offense an opportunity to catch up and had a big scoop and score, long 73-yard fumble return, and then an interception return down to the 1-yard line that allowed them to punch in. And both those came late, so huge plays for them. And then Richwoods is, aside from allowing 35 to Normal West, the past 4 games, I think it is, since they've played Bloomington, their defense has played a lot better. They've made some personnel changes. Joe Jackson moving to safety was a big move. Coach Brown couldn't talk enough about the job that Jackson's done back in the secondary. They've got Keenan Streetmatter, the quarterback, playing some secondary. Sherrod Danish, the big, tall, physical wide receiver, playing some corner. And then they moved some guys around on the line and to the second, or to the linebackers a little bit. So they've been doing I guess made some personnel changes, and but at the same time the offense is kind of taking a step back or so. Coach Brown was saying, we've got a big offensive game coming. He doesn't know if it's going to be this week or if they live past this week, if it'll come later. But, he thinks they're due for a big offensive performance. And I don't know what to expect from this game. It's on the field turf, so it's going to help, I think, with Morton's speed, which isn't anything that Richwoods hasn't faced in the Big 12. But between Morton's speed and the speed of Knowledge Hall, the Richwoods running back, and A.J. Johnson, their kind of H-back wide receiver type player who takes some handoffs and gets the ball in space on some screen passes and slant passes and whatnot. So I could see it being, a shootout. I could see it being, a game where the defenses kind of step up a little bit, even a game where the offenses move the ball, but, get stopped in the other team's territory. They cross the 50 and then get stuffed on 4th down or something. So I don't know. That's going to be fun. I think, I don't know. It's just going to be fun. And it's going to be cool to see one of those teams in the quarterfinals against either Washington or a solid Decatur MacArthur squad who beat Sacred Heart Griffin this year. Obviously lost to Rochester, who is just
a machine.
Yeah, a machine. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Just a machine in 4A.
Yeah.
And then they also lost to Chatham-Glenwood, a game that some people from down there think that MacArthur probably should have won. But, a very good team. I had someone from the Journal Star forums ask me, what do I think MacArthur's going to do? And I think with the weapons they have, the 2 Brummett twins, the twin brothers, the quarterback Amir, who's going to NIU to play receiver, and then his brother Armand, another I guess he plays receiver, who's getting some looks to play Division I football at certain places. Get those 2 guys the ball, whether it's Amir running the football or Armand getting it to him in space. Isaiah Johnson running the football as well. Jacoby Cunningham, another name to watch. MacArthur's got the weapons. They've got the weapons. They've got the speed. They're playing with confidence. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the biggest thing is they're going to try to get the ball in space, pitch it out to the perimeter and see what their athletes can do against Washington, which, if you throw a lot of short passing routes, a screen pass, a bubble, a slant or an in route or an out route or whatever, you get that ball out quickly, you kind of negate the Washington pass rush a little bit, which has been very effective. We saw that last week against Tinley Park. Washington, I think, is going to try to, just run the ball, pound it, run it between the tackles and almost 3 yards in a cloud of dust a little bit. I think Caleb Fisher is going to have to throw it a little bit to open up the box and reopen up those running lanes for him. And then, flipping over the third middle line at Team Dunlap, who has a really tough draw against a good Rich Central team. Rich Central is, Coach Cazalet said, a team that is comparable to last year's Peoria High State Championship team. Not with the tempo, not they don't play fast, or at least not that fast. But they have a ton of speed. They're very aggressive on both sides of the ball. They have the big play ability to score at any time. They've got a dual threat quarterback in Jiron Mitchell. He's a kid that can throw the football and he can run it. He's got really good speed, really good hands. He's going to go play football at Northern Illinois as a wide receiver. So I guess kind of like Amir Brummett, who's also going to be in the area playing football. So those 2 will be teammates, which is kind of cool. And then you flip over to before we flip over to the other side of the ball, they got a running back in Sean Tyler who is just blazing fast. He's not very big. He's only a junior too, but he's 5'9", 165, and just has blazing speed. So they have some opportunities to hit some home run plays and move the ball, and I think that's going to be a big focus for Dunlap is, don't get too high, don't get caught up in the emotions, just play sound football and make the plays you need to make and try to bottle up those big plays. And then you flip you flip over to the other side of the ball, Matthew Stuckey, the linebacker, who is going to Western Michigan to play college football. He's 6 foot 210, but he's a speed guy. He'll seal the edge. He'll find the ball carrier. I think that's going to be really interesting to see where he lines up. He's a linebacker, plays outside, comes inside. They move him around a little bit. So to see how Dunlap schemes for that, that's someone they're definitely going to have their eyes on every time they line up on offense. I think seeing him against a guy like Brock Jokic on the offensive line, really anyone on that offensive line is going to be just something to watch to see how he gets off the block, see if he can get to the quarterback or how he does in coverage as well against some of the more bigger physical receiving core with Josiah Meehan, Charlie Mangieri, and Isaac Guyton. And then if Luke does get a chance to go one-on-one with them, that'll be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would be looking forward to see what happens there one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Rich Central also has a big and experienced offensive line. So, very similar to Peoria High last year in some aspects, at least the makeup of the team. So it's going to be a fun week.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. See who can move on and get into the quarters and then, go from there. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is about this 5A bracket, like the northern portion is really tough. You've got Lamont up there, Sterling, who's looked unbeatable, Phillips, who is a 3A school but petitioned to play 5A and is the top seed up there. They're really tough. So you would think, Dunlap and the schools down here have, kind of an edge in getting to the quarterfinals or the semifinals, which is somewhat the case, as we see with Richwoods and Morton. One of those two will get to the quarters, and then Washington's got a good shot playing at Babcock against a MacArthur team. So, but Dunlap's got a really tough draw with Rich Central. And I was listening to another podcast earlier today, and they said something that I probably tried to say, but I didn't say it as well as they did. It's not about the seeds, it's about matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they get seeded 1 through 16 or 1 through 32, and, people look at the seed line and they're like, oh, well, they're just a 16 seed. But that 16 seed could play an unbelievable schedule, go 5-4 and have 55 playoff points and just be a really good team.
Right.
Or it could be, a team like Streeter, which Dunlap faced, which was 5-4 with 39 playoff points and was the last team in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Right. And we saw that in 3A, actually. The southern bracket, the number 1 seed, number 2 seed got blown out by the 15 and 16 seeds, which, you wonder, about the seedings there. You have Vandalia beat number 2 seed Fairfield handily. Pleasant Plains, 16 seed, blows out Trenton Wesleyan. I get it right. The number 1 seed on that southern bracket. So that opens up a little bit. And, the northern, the upper bracket of that 3A has just obviously been loaded the last several years. Talked about that even. Elmhurst IC, that's who Farmington would get. If the Farmington can advance into into the quarters, they would face Elmhurst IC, which unbelievably, it's defending state champion. They're the number 5 seed. So, they just blew everybody away in the regular season. The only loss they have is to a Burbank team that's still playing in 6A. They lost to a 6A team, but they're still the number 5 seed in 3A. So that's what,
unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's who Farmington would get if they can advance past, Wilmington this weekend. So, yeah. You never really know about those seeds, and you always do see a 15 going out or a 14 going out, or even maybe going out and winning games against the 1-2 seeds. So starts to begin equalizing out, I guess, as the bracket keeps going forward, and you get obviously your teams that are, your powers come to the front, right? They always seem to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's what's crazy, That's a perfect example. I see Catholics a 5 seed, per parentheses or quotes or whatever. That's just unreal. An unreal draw for Farmington if they win this week to, assuming IC Catholic wins,
Right.
You don't want to assume anything.
It's a Piatone team that they're playing, which, obviously they're the number 4 seed. What did they win? They won 41 to 20 over PBL in the first round. So, yeah. So they have their hands full too, but they've just been one of those machine type programs the last several years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
who do you like this week? Who are you picking?
Let's see. 3A. We'll start with the 3As. Farmington, Wilmington. It is a tough matchup for Farmington. I mean, Wilmington, certainly a strong traditional type power, great running attack. One of the things that Farmington has going for itself is that they can do both. Wilmington is a team that can only pass if they have to, kind of thing. They haven't passed very much. They kind of rely on, running it down your throat. But Farmington has a strong defense, and that the linebackers and the guys up front. I mean, they got Jared DePriest, Evan Marion. I'm going to be featuring their defense coming into this one, and just they both talk to each other, explain what each other is like by saying, they're animals. These guys are animals on a defensive line and a linebacker crew. So they've got some guys that maybe can stop that run and kind of force Wilmington into passing situations. And whereas Farmington, on the other hand, can run the ball, and they can also pass it. They've kind of been one of those opportunistic type offenses. If you're going to give us the run, we're going to run it. If you give us the pass, we're going to do that too. So I think those are kind of some things that they have in their favor. They certainly have a strong defense that, again, has only given up 10 points a game. So I'm going to say Farmington's going to win this one, maybe by a touchdown. It's not going to be 48-6 like the first round game against Winnebago, but I think Farmington pulls this one out, goes to 11-0 for a second year in a row. That's 3A.
Yeah.
Now for 2A, you want me to go with one, or you want to go with one?
I'll go with one.
Why don't you
sure.
go with one?
We'll
bounce back and forth.
Which one should I go with first? I don't know. I'll go with Washington and MacArthur. Just, I don't know why. I don't know. First one that came to mind for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. The elements will certainly play a factor, I think. If it's raining, I think that plays a little bit in Washington's favor, just because they are so good at running the football and they've got a really good offensive line. And MacArthur likes to throw the football and get guys in space that way. They like to get the ball to their athletes. Short passes, won't be hampered as much if it's raining, but still, the elements do play a factor. See how MacArthur would adjust to that. See how Washington would adjust. Which quarterback throws a wet ball better? Caleb Fisher certainly has played very well. Completing 2/3 of his passes on the season, which is pretty unreal. Especially with the slow start that his receivers had a little bit there early and into the middle of the season with some drops. But I don't know. I think Washington's got a lot going for them right now. They're turning into one of those powerhouse programs where they consistently get to the quarterfinals, consistently make the playoffs. I think 11th year in a row in the playoffs. If they win, it's their 3rd straight quarterfinals appearance. And Daryl Crouch has got a good program. They got talented kids. I think they'll probably win, but I think it's only going to be maybe a touchdown or 2 touchdown game. I think it's going to be pretty close throughout.
Oh, okay. We'll go with the back to the Smalls in 2A. That's how about Knoxville? Yeah, we got Knoxville at El PasoGridley. El PasoGridley is a team that they've been in playoff mode for the last several weeks because they've actually had to win 3 in a row just to get into the playoffs. They barely make it into the playoffs, and then they kind of pull the upset in the first round against Rock Ridge. So they're playing with some momentum, and it's on their turf field for them. Knoxville again has just kind of really been rolling. like I said, they've won 8 in a row. They've got a massive. I mean, Coach Rigsby from EPG was like, man, those guys are big. It's like looking at the size of these guys, and it was like 250. They've got a 350 pounder on their line, big line. They will just run it right down your throat and keep running. So we'll see. I kind of think that Knoxville has a little bit too much maybe for EPG to kind of contain that. El PasoGridley has a good running back in Ryan Falk. This guy, he's been over 1,400 yards. He pretty much carried them, they had a game kind of sealing drive against Rock Ridge, and he was their guy that they just kept giving him the ball, feeding him the ball, and finally ended up scoring a touchdown late to kind of help seal that thing. And so they're gonna look to him, but I kind of see Knoxville coming away with maybe 2 touchdowns. We'll see. I don't know what in playoffs. I don't know if I want to go that far with any team going 2 touchdowns, but So, but I think Knoxville gets the win in there and kind of moves on. So
I'll go to the game that I'll be at Carper Field. Richwoods at Morton for the Big 12/Midstate 6 Mid-Illini showdown. As I originally thought about this game, I thought Richwoods was going to win just because they can do things throwing the football. They can do things on the ground, trusting to Knowledge Hall to run the football and secure it. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards Morton as well just because they do a real good job of securing the football. They don't throw a ton. So there aren't as many opportunities to throw an interception. And the way that Nolan Donald, Bradley Getz, and Jarrett Kreider run the football, it's very hard to, 1, tackle them, 2, strip the football from them. They just find ways to fight for extra yards and eventually break a big run. But I don't know. I think the interesting thing too with Richwoods this week is that they faced the triple option last week, and now the read option rushing attack has so many similarities to it. Even though, it's a little quicker to pace, you're out of the shotgun, you've got guys in motion or out of the pistol. There's some similarities, and Coach Brown talked about responsibility football on defense. You're responsible for this guy, you're responsible for this guy, because the quarterback, Nolan Donald, he's reading the defense. He's reading, the defensive end to see if he wants to hand the ball off or pitch it or whatever. So I think that's really going to help Richwoods, having those 2 back-to-back and having seen the speed of the Big 12 all year. It's not something that's going to necessarily be new when they go up against Jarrett Kreider, Bradley Getz, or Nolan Donald. The 3-headed rushing attack, well-documented rushing attack. I think Richwoods, right now I'm going to go Richwoods by a field goal. Of course, they just won their last game by a field goal.
Right. Yeah.
But that could change, when the paper comes out. I could change my mind.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's a toss-up.
It really is. It really is. It would be a fun game to watch. Yeah. I don't know. When's the last time those guys? Last time those guys have played? I certainly don't play very often. But going to my game that I'm going to be covering, Anawan, Wethersfield, and Princeville. At Princeville this time. Like I said, last game was 14-6, and Anawan won that game. Really, but that was the first time Princeville had ever been tested. They came into that one just rolling. They won the first 5 games and were just blowing teams away. But it was the first time they had played a really strong team, and so but since then, they've played the Stark counties, the Mercer counties. They played Dakota. They played some really strong teams with some talent, and Princeville's Coach John Carruthers feels like they're playing better than they have all season right now. And Anawan is just the thing that really Anawan has going for itself is that experience factor that, they've been in this situation before, 2 years in a row, making it to the semifinals. Now their freshman quarterback hasn't, so maybe the Princeville can apply some pressure to him and maybe get him a little bit rattled in a situation where he's not been in before. But he hasn't been playing like a freshman so far. I mean, he's just playing outstanding for Anawan Wethersfield. So, last time Anawan was able to kind of shut down Princeville's rushing attack. Princeville really didn't get going at all offensively and getting their game going at all throughout the game. So, man, this is another kind of toss. It could go either. I can see this thing going either way. I certainly don't see this game being a 54 to 48 game. I think this is going to be another one that's going to be 14-6, or it's going to be whoever scores the second touchdown maybe is going to be the one. It's going to one of those games going to come down to who makes the turnover, who makes the mistakes at the wrong times, and who takes advantage of those mistakes. And so all those kind of kicking games, those kind of things come into factor when you got teams that are so close. And it's a tough one to pick, but I'm gonna lean right now to Anawan Wethersfield just because of that experience, been there, done that. We've got the guys that know in these situations to do it, and it's relatively new for this Princeville group. So I'm going to go with Anawan by maybe 2 points. And
both those teams are riding a lot of confidence too.
They are, right.
I have to imagine Princeville, even though they lost that game the first time around, to the fact that it was only an 8-point game,
right?
They've got to be thinking, we can go in here and we can't. I mean, not only hang with them, but we can beat this team.
Well, and to go in and beat a team like Dakota, who's comes from a powerhouse conference and this one of those name programs, and to go to their place and to beat them, and the way they did it in double overtime, really exciting thing. Cam Kessling knocks down a pass on third down to set up a fourth down, so they end up having to kick a field goal in that second overtime, and so Princeville gets the touchdown to win it. So yeah, they've got a lot of momentum coming into this, and I got to think that they're really, they haven't been to the quarterfinals, I believe, since 1985. So they want to be be the team that kind of gets to that level again. So yeah, I can see them winning it too. I certainly can. So, but right now I'm going to go with Anawan by a point or two. So.
I guess the only game I have left is, probably the team that has the most confidence maybe in the area with Dunlap. Mm-hmm. Having won 10 straight, 13 of their last 14, with their only loss against Peoria High, 21-9 in the first round of the playoffs last year. And the crazy thing about that is that's where they really gained their confidence. This Dunlap team, that's where they knew that they could have a special year this year with all those guys back on defense this year. And I think it's funny that they're playing a Rich Central team that kind of Cazalet obviously said it reminds him of that Peoria High team a little bit, but a very similar styled team. And it's Dunlap's never been to the quarterfinals ever. So they're certainly chasing history themselves this week, trying to go 11-0, having had the undefeated season, maybe surprising a few people with how good that defense has played. Mm-hmm. They're certainly going to be tested this week. Man, I don't know. I'll go with the home team, I think. Home field advantage has to help, right?
That'll be a few points at least.
Yeah, but I think it's another game that it could be close. Dunlap's defense, I think, has allowed 13 or so points per game this year. So they've been very good. But I think this is one of those games that could be like a 35-28 type game where, maybe the defense, people see the score and they think, oh, well, it wasn't a very defensive game. But truly it's a game that's dominated by the defense and a field position type game. And that's how the two teams are able to move the ball and get it to the end zone. So, well, I guess we'll see. At least on the large school side, we have 3, I think, very good football games where anything can happen. So it's gonna be a good Saturday of football.
Absolutely.
You still have one more, right? One more.
No, I'm good. I got 3 games.
Oh, that's right.
That's
it.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So we're all in. I don't think so.
Get to the preview and get this stuff out.
Yeah. Change that forecast, somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
Gosh, please.
50s and sunny would be awesome. I'll take that.
I'll just take 50s after last weekend.
You're right.
50s and dry.
Yeah.
That's what I hope. But
Toes took a while to unthaw after that last Saturday.
Yeah.
That was a cold one.
Well, I think Saturday was colder than it was Friday night. Matt, I think we had that discussion a little bit. Matt was obviously out shooting games last weekend. He came out to the Washington game Saturday, and I was like, "Where are you coming from?" You know. So
I took the easy way out and went up in the press box this time. We've been walking the sidelines almost all season. I'm going up in the press box.
I was on the field for both games.
I was still cold in the press box.
Yeah, I was on the field for both games, and I don't know, it didn't bother me too much. But when that wind whipped up, I was like, oh,
yeah,
a little chilly.
Yeah,
I need a heated press box. You know? I'm just hoping it's dry. I mean, I can handle the cold. It's just stay dry, please.
Absolutely.
Keep my stat sheets nice and dry.
Yep. Right.
Cool. Well, that does it for another edition of the Sports Writers Podcast. Special thanks to Matt Dayhoff, who's over there laughing and producing for us. Also does great photography work at football games and volleyball matches and other events that we cover. We appreciate your support. Thanks for subscribing to the Journal Star, checking us out on Facebook, YouTube, pjstar.com. Please hit that red subscribe button. If you sign up for the print subscription, you get the online stuff free. So if you like to have the paper version, I love a good paper version, but I'm also very digital. I'm always on my phone and Twitter and my computer, so I value that side of it too. You know, it's perfect. It's perfect for people with both worlds. So thanks for checking us out. Please subscribe to the Journal Star. I guess we'll be back next week with fewer teams.
Right.
So
maybe.
Yeah.
Well, at least a fewer. Yeah.
So for Stan and Matt, I'm Aaron, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.